Welcome back. Now imagine this. You've put in months of work on a clinical trial, met the enrollment goals, managed the data, wrapped up your reports, and then, during an inspection, the regulator says, this site is non-compliant with GCP. Ouch. That one moment can undermine everything, from your trial's credibility to your company's reputation. That's why in this tutorial, we're going to talk about what happens when things go wrong, and more importantly, how to prevent them. We'll cover 4 key concepts that every clinical research professional should understand. First, what non-compliance with GCP actually means, and the real-world consequences that can follow. Then, we'll look at corrective and preventive actions, or CAPAs, not just as a checklist, but as a system to learn and improve. Next, we'll break down the difference between quality assurance and quality control. Many use these terms interchangeably, but they play very different roles in ensuring quality. And finally, we'll explore inspection readiness, because being prepared isn't about scrambling at the last minute. It's about building confidence that your trial can stand up to regulatory scrutiny anytime. So whether you're managing a site, supporting a sponsor, or leading medical affairs, this tutorial will help you not just fix problems, but prevent them. Let's first begin with the meaning of being GCP non-compliant. Or in other words, what does non-compliance look like? Non-compliance can range from minor protocol deviations to significant ethical breaches. It might be something as basic as failing to obtain informed consent properly, or as serious as not reporting adverse events, altering data, enrolling ineligible subjects, or ignoring safety signals. Sometimes it's due to lack of training. Other times, unfortunately, it's deliberate. Either way, the outcome is the same. Trust is broken. Then, what happens? When there's GCP non-compliance, let's talk consequences. Regulatory actions. Regulatory agencies like the FDA, EMA, or local health authorities take GCP violations very seriously. Findings of non-compliance during audits or inspections can lead to warning letters, clinical hold on the study, rejection of study data, disqualification of investigators, financial penalties, suspension or withdrawal of study approvals, loss of credibility. Imagine investing years of research and then having your study results dismissed, not because your science was bad, but because your documentation was incomplete or your consent process was flawed. One major non-compliance finding can damage the reputation of an entire research site or even a sponsor. Legal liability. In severe cases, non-compliance can lead to lawsuits, especially if participants are harmed or if misconduct is involved. Ethics committees, investigators, and sponsors can all be held accountable. Impact on patients. This is the most critical one. When GCP is compromised, patient safety is at risk. That could mean unreported side effects, missed follow-up care, or misleading information about the risks of a treatment. It's not just about rules, it's about people. This is important because GCP compliance isn't a nice to have, it's foundational. And everyone involved in a clinical trial, from the investigator to the sponsor, from the study nurse to the monitor, has a role to play in maintaining that compliance. Training is key. Clear delegation is critical. Documenting everything properly, even the things that seem minor, can make or break the validity of your entire trial. Now let's move to one of the most powerful tools we have to improve quality and avoid future mistakes in clinical research. CAPAs, corrective and preventive actions. And these are about learning, improving, and protecting every element of your study, from patients to data to your reputation. What is a CAPA? A CAPA is a structured, documented process you follow when something goes wrong, or almost goes wrong, in a clinical trial. The corrective part, that's about solving the problem now, And the preventive part, that's about making sure it doesn't happen again. Then, we're talking here about root cause analysis and sustainable solutions. CAPAs are so important in clinical research because clinical trials are complex, multiple stakeholders, global sites, strict timelines. With so many moving parts, even small issues can ripple out into major consequences. Let's say an informed consent form was missing a signature, or a protocol deviation wasn't reported in time, or a data entry error affected your efficacy results. If you just correct the immediate issue, but don't address why it happened, you risk it happening again. And that's exactly what regulators don't want. CAPAs are your defense mechanism. They show that you take quality seriously, that you're not just reacting, but proactively improving your processes. But we have to know, what triggers a CAPA? Many things can trigger a CAPA in clinical trials, including audit or inspection findings, internal monitoring observations, deviations or violations, safety reporting gaps, trends noticed during data reviews, complaints or concerns raised by site staff. Basically, any signal that something isn't working as it should. So, what's the CAPA process? Let's break it down. 1. Identify the issue. What happened? Be specific. Define the problem clearly. 2. Investigate the root cause. This is where many teams go wrong. They treat symptoms instead of causes. Use tools like the 5 whys or fishbone diagrams to find out what really led to the issue. 3. Plan corrective actions. How will you fix it now? What needs to be changed immediately? 4. Plan preventive actions. How will you prevent recurrence? Do you need to revise SOPs, retrain staff, update tools? 5. Implement the actions, assign responsibilities, set deadlines, and follow through. 6. Verify effectiveness. Did it work? Are your processes running better? Are the issues reappearing? 7. Document everything. From the root cause to the final verification, document every step. Because if an inspector asks, you'll need to show your work. But what are common mistakes in CAPAs? To be honest, in clinical research, CAPAs aren't always done well. Some common pitfalls include skipping the root cause analysis, assigning generic corrective actions, retrain staff, without follow-up, not measuring whether the action was effective, not closing the CAPA formally, treating it like a box-ticking exercise. Remember, a weak CAPA is almost worse than no CAPA at all, because it gives the illusion of control without actually improving quality. Once again, if you're in clinical operations, data management, regulatory affairs, or medical affairs, quality belongs to all of us. If you see something that's not working or could work better, speak up, contribute to the solution, and help embed a culture where learning from mistakes isn't something to hide. It's something to celebrate. Let's clear up a common confusion in the world of clinical research: quality assurance and quality control. People often use these terms interchangeably, but they're not the same. They're two sides of the same coin, both focused on ensuring quality, yes, but with very different roles and timing in the trial process. So if you've ever wondered, is QA just a fancy name for quality control? Or aren't both about checking things? In order to answer this question, let's start with the big picture. What are we trying to do? In clinical trials, we're trying to produce high-quality data, collected in an ethical and regulatory compliant way that ultimately supports the safety and efficacy of an investigational product. To do that, we need robust systems, trained people, and constant oversight. That's where quality assurance and quality control come in. So, what is quality assurance, QA? Think of quality assurance as the proactive approach. It's all about building systems and processes that prevent problems before they occur. Quality assurance is the design and management of quality. It involves developing standard operating procedures, SOPs, training staff, before trial activities begin, conducting internal audits, performing vendor qualifications, setting up monitoring plans, ensuring compliance with ICH GCP, regulatory requirements, and company policies. Quality assurance asks, are we doing things the right way from the start? It's like building the foundation of a house, strong, stable, and designed to last. If quality assurance is done well, quality control has less to catch later. And what about quality control? QC. Now think of quality control as the reactive hands-on piece. Quality control is about checking and verifying things that have already been done. It focuses on reviewing data entries and case report forms, CRFs, checking lab results for accuracy, ensuring informed consent forms are correctly signed, spot checking trial master files and regulatory documents, verifying that source data matches what's reported. Quality control asks, was this done correctly? It's about detecting errors so they can be corrected before they become major issues during audits or inspections. Let's have a look at this table and summarize the comparison. These are the comparison points we'll use to understand the distinction. Focus, objective, timing, tools, examples, and the outcome. Let's start with the focus. Think of quality assurance as your game plan. It's about building and following the right processes from the very beginning, before anyone even enrolls in a study. Quality control, on the other hand, is more like a final checkup. You've done the work, now let's make sure it looks right, feels right, and meets expectations. Moving on to the objective. Quality control is about prevention. It's making sure everyone's trained, that SOPs are followed, and the system is designed to minimize errors before they happen. Quality control is your safety net. It's designed to catch issues, missing data, misfiled documents, or inconsistencies after the action is done. And about timing. Quality assurance runs in parallel with the trial. It's happening while things are moving, like oversight, monitoring plans, and GCP compliance. Quality control, that usually kicks in after the activities are completed. Think of it as a final review stage, checking what's already been done. What about the tools used? Quality assurance uses things like SOPs, guidelines, checklists, audits, CAPAs, all the infrastructure that keeps the trial in shape. Quality control is more hands-on with the data, reviewing case report forms, source documents, lab values. It's about verifying, not just trusting, that quality is there. Some real examples? Quality assurance would be ensuring a CRO has the right qualifications, that investigator meetings are held, or that monitoring visits follow a standard schedule. Quality control would be reviewing patient files, making sure informed consent was taken correctly, or that adverse events are properly recorded. And finally, the outcome. Quality assurance creates confidence in your system. It builds reliability. Quality control gives you confidence in your results. It confirms accuracy. Another real-world example. Let's say you're running a multi-site clinical trial. Quality assurance would be setting up a centralized monitoring plan, ensuring all sites are trained to the protocol, auditing the CRO's data handling procedures. Quality control would be checking that informed consent forms are signed and dated properly, spot checking adverse event reporting timelines, verifying CRF entries against source documents. Now let's talk about inspection readiness in clinical trials. Whether it's the FDA, EMA, MHRA, or a local regulatory authority, an inspection means one thing. Someone is coming to check if your trial was conducted the way it was supposed to be. In fact, real inspection readiness isn't about last-minute panic. It's about being consistently ready. Because in clinical trials, every step, Every signature, every file, it all counts. So what does inspection readiness actually mean? Let's unpack it. It starts with a mindset. Inspection. Readiness is not an event, it's a culture. It means your team operates every day like an inspection could happen tomorrow. You're not just hoping your documentation is in order. You're ensuring that your processes are tight, your data is verifiable, and your responsibilities are clearly assigned. And it applies to everyone, from the sponsor and CRO to site staff, study nurses, investigators, and data managers. What do inspectors look for? Inspectors come in with a checklist, but it's not just about ticking boxes. They want to understand: did you follow ICH GCP guidelines and your protocol? Was patient safety always prioritized? Is the data credible, traceable, and complete? Are deviations, AEs, and SAEs well documented and reported? Are your systems transparent and auditable? They'll ask to see the trial master file, the investigator's site file, informed consent forms, monitoring reports, training records, communication logs, protocol amendments, and documentation trails. If something is missing or unclear, it raises red flags. And remember, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. How to stay inspection ready. Here are a few essentials. Own your documentation. Keep it current, complete, and organized. Use version control. File as you go. Don't let piles build up. Train your team. Everyone should know their roles and how to explain them. Make inspection training a routine part of onboarding and refreshers. Conduct mock inspections. Simulate real audits. This is your dress rehearsal. Identify gaps while there's still time to fix them. Track CAPAs. Show that when issues occurred, you didn't just fix them, you learned from them. Document your corrective and preventive actions thoroughly. Have a go-to inspection folder. Prepare a summary sheet, organizational charts, and key contact info. Know who will greet inspectors, who will speak, and how questions will be answered. Practice transparency. Don't hide issues. Address them head on. Inspectors appreciate honesty and proactive problem solving more than silence or excuses. It is highly recommended that you know the hotspots, or what exactly the regulators are especially focused on, like informed consent, safety reporting, timelines protocol, deviations, data, integrity source, data, verification audit, trails, vendor, oversight. These are the areas where most findings occur. If you're strong here, you're in good shape. So what are the consequences if you're not ready? Well, findings can range from minor observations to major violations, even clinical holds or rejections of trial data. Beyond that, it damages your reputation as a site, a sponsor, a CRO, or an individual. But when you're ready, when your documents are in order, your team is confident, and your data tells a clear story, you build trust with regulators, stakeholders, and patients. And that's what it's all about. So as a wrap-up, non-compliance can cost a trial everything. But with robust CAPA systems, a clear understanding of QA versus QC, and a mindset of continuous inspection readiness, you're not just checking boxes, you're building trust. Trust with patients, trust with regulators, trust within your own organization. Clinical research is a team sport, and quality is everyone's responsibility. Thanks for joining me. And as always, stay curious, stay compliant, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.